Hello and welcome to the second video for the Creating an Emoji Expression Quiz app using Thunkable. We've made our first screen and we have our picture and our button that is coded to go to screen 2. So if I look in my block section here, when that button is clicked, it's going to navigate to screen 2. Our screen 2 is empty right now. If we look at what it is supposed to look like, we see that we want to have our question at the top, our math expression, and our 4 possible answers with a next button. So we're going to start by making 4 rows in this screen. We're going to go to Add Component, and we're going to go to Screen or Layout and do 4 rows. So you can drag it right over on top of screen 2. So that will be row 1, row 2, row 3, and row 4. And then we're going to add columns to the middle 2 rows. So that's where we're going to have our different answers, and we actually need 4 sections there. So we're going to drag over a column to row 2 and a column to row 3. We also want to have a second column in row 2 and a second column in row 3. So now we have column 1, 2, 3, and 4 over here. It doesn't matter what order your numbers are in as long as you realize or recognize which one is where. So the next thing that we need to do is put a label at the top of our screen in row 4. We're going to add a component and drag a label over here. And this is where we're going to type our question. So I'm going to do 4 divided by 2 plus 2. Now I can type 4, but I don't have a division symbol on my keyboard. So what you can do if you're going to use division is just go to Google and search for division symbol. And you can just, the first division symbol you see, you can just copy it, Control C, and go back and paste it. And that's a good way to get that symbol. All the other symbols are there, everything else that you would need. So there we go. So 4 divided by 2 plus 2. So my answer for this should be 4 divided by 2. I do that first because division comes before the addition in PEMDAS, right? The order of operations. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. And then add another 2 to that. So the answer should be 4. There's a danger that somebody might decide to add 2 plus 2 together. And that would be 4, and 4 divided by 4 is 1. So I actually want to put 1 as an answer just to trick some people. So I'm going to just do 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 4 will be my correct answer. So I'm going to go back to Add Component, and I need a button in each of my columns. So I'm going to drag them over here this time. And these are my possible answers. And I'm going to start by clicking on each one and replacing with some answers. Now, obviously, you can play around with the size and font and color of all of these things that you're adding. But for now, I'm just going to show you how to do that, okay? And then we also need to put a button for next in the last row. So when I click on that, I'm just going to type the word next. Okay, so now we have our label up top, which is our question. And then we have our, I'm actually going to make that just a little bigger. And then we have our, there we go. Okay, so labels up top, then we have our answers down here, and then the next button will be coded to go to button or screen number 3. All right, so now what we need to do is set the background picture for each of these to be our happy and sad. So for my correct answer, which is 4, I want to make the background picture my happy face. Now notice how it's stretched over here. We actually want to resize it and just say contain. It's not going to change it here, but it will when we test the app. So this is my happy picture. In the other 3, I'm going to put my sad picture, and I'm going to contain it because I want to have the picture show up just in that box. Again, I'm going to do sad because these are the wrong answers, and contain. And in my last one, I'm going to do the same thing. Okay, and then once you're done with this, we're ready for coding, so that not only does this next button work, but also when they tap 4, that the happy face shows up, and when they tap the other 3, the sad faces show up. So make sure you get to this point. I'm going to pause the video, and when you're ready, we'll move on and do the coding. Okay, now that you have all of your pictures in the back, plus the answers and your question, and a next button, we're ready for coding. So go ahead into the block section. The very first thing that we want to do is when the screen starts, so scroll down until you see screen 2. When screen 2 starts, we need to set the background picture for all of those columns to be nothing. And so my columns are columns 1, 3, 2, and 4. So I'm going to select this one right here and scroll up a bit so you can see. Okay, so from column 1, set the background picture to, and we actually want something that's called null, which means nothing, empty. So we're saying when it starts, we want column 1 to be nothing. Then we want to do this duplicate thing, which is where I am right-clicking and selecting duplicate. And there we go. So now we need to change these to the different columns that I have. Column 1, 2, 3, and 4. You'll notice that it's doing something funny. It is changing this option. I'm not sure why. So let's change it back. We want all of them to say the column number, set background picture to null. All right, so that's what happens when the screen starts. The next code that we need to do is when the buttons are clicked. So for me, I'm going to see that in my correct answer, I'm actually going to go back and double check. My correct answer is button 5. So my correct one is button 5. So when button 5 is clicked, I want to change the column 1 background picture. So column 1, set background picture to, and this time, in order to tell it what picture I want, I'm going to grab an empty text box from the text section and type in what that picture is called. And again, you do that entire file name, even with the .png or JPG or whatever kind of picture file you have there. So when button 5 is clicked, set the background picture to my happy picture. Now I can duplicate this entire thing and change the rest of these to match up to buttons 2, 3, and 4 and their respective columns. So make sure you keep everything straight, and if you need to keep going back and forth to properties, just to double check, you can do that. So I'll do that for this one. So my button right here is, I can scroll down and see, it's button 4. When they tap button 4, column 3 needs to turn to the sad picture. So here I go. When button 4 is clicked, let's actually delete that because I had duplicated. So when button 4 is clicked, set the background for column 3 to sad. Okay, I'm going to pause the video and finish up these other two, and you're going to do the same thing, and then we'll figure out what we need to do from there. Okay, so we're back and we're making sure that we have all of our buttons coded correctly. You can see that the columns and buttons are next to each other over here. So if you're confused about that, you can see that button 5 should change column 1. So you can check here, button 5 changes column 1, button 4 changes column 3, 4 changes 3, just like that. So that's how you can see button 3 changes 2, 3, 2, and 2 changes 4, 2, 4. So if you need to write that down, maybe that would be helpful, or type it in another document or something just to keep track. That might be helpful. And make sure they all say set background picture 2, and then you've put in the correct images. One more thing to code in here, we need to code our last button to navigate to screen 3. So that would be button 6, I believe. Button 6, when it is clicked, we want to, if you remember from last time, it's in the control section, we want to navigate to screen 3. Now, unfortunately, I haven't made my screen 3 yet, so I have to leave it here. I'll just leave it at screen 1 for now. And I can collapse all that work that I did in both of these and go back and add my screen 3. So under Add Component, Screen Layout, drag screen 3 over here. Looks like I can put it underneath. Perfect. All right, and on screen 3, I need to do everything I just did on this video. So starting at the beginning with the rows and putting in the questions. Here's the cool thing though. Once you have that in there on screen 3, you can actually go into this section here and you can Control C. So if I select this, I can Control C, and then I can go into screen 3 blocks and Control V and paste it. So you don't necessarily have to do all that coding work again. The only thing you would have to do is change the drop downs. So I don't have my new columns yet because I haven't made them, but once you do make them, you would change these to be the different columns. Now, you're ready to test once you've finished your screen 2 and see if all these buttons work. I'm just going to change this button to navigate to screen 3. All right, when you're ready to test, all you have to do is click Live Test right here and make sure on your iPad that you have logged into Thunkable using the same account that you have logged into Thunkable on your computer. and then you are good to go to test it out. Once you've done that, keep going until you're ready to do the last screen.